It was a cold, rainy night in New York City. The street sparkled with bright lights, but one young woman stood alone in the darkness, trembling. Her eyes were open, yet she could not see the world around her. She was not an ordinary girl. Her name was Emma Howard, one of the youngest billionaire heiresses in America. She had everything: luxury cars, a mansion, fame, and a massive tech empire inherited from her father. Everything, except her eyesight. 2 years earlier, a terrible accident had taken away her vision. The best doctors in the world failed to cure her blindness. That night, Emma had become separated from her security guards and lost her way in the rain. Hundreds of people passed by her, but no one stopped to help. Then suddenly, a calm voice spoke behind her. "Miss, are you okay?" The voice belonged to a poor young boy named David. David was only 17 years old. During the day, he washed cars, and at night, he worked as a pizza delivery driver. His clothes were old, his shoes were worn out, but there was kindness in his voice. Emma whispered softly, I can't find my way." Without hesitation, David removed his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. "Don't worry," he said gently. "I'll help you." Emma was surprised. Most people only cared about her wealth, but this boy treated her like a normal human being. David took her to a small cafe nearby. He spent his last $10 to buy her hot coffee and a sandwich. Emma asked quietly, "Do you know who I am?" David smiled. "No. But you looked like someone who needed help, and that's enough for me." Emma fell silent. For the first time in years, someone had helped her without expecting anything in return. A few minutes later, Emma's security guards rushed into the cafe. They were shocked. The billionaire heiress Emma Howard was sitting beside a poor delivery boy in a tiny cafe. One of the guards asked anxiously, "Miss Emma, are you all right?" Emma replied softly, "This boy saved me tonight." David quietly stood up to leave, but Emma suddenly held his hand. "Can I see you again?" she asked. David looked confused. "A rich girl like you wants to meet someone like me?" Emma smiled faintly. "You're the first person who saw me as a human, not as a billionaire." The next morning, the story spread across social media and news channels. Billionaire girl seen with poor delivery driver. People began mocking David. Some said, "He's obviously after her money." But David never responded to the rumors. He simply returned to his ordinary life. A few days later, Emma invited him to her mansion. The house looked like a royal palace: giant crystal chandeliers, expensive marble floors, servants everywhere. David felt uncomfortable. Then Emma's mother walked into the room. She was a proud and cold-hearted woman. She looked David up and down and said harshly, "Boys like you only come near rich people for money." David remained silent. Emma became angry. "Mom, he helped me when nobody else did." But her mother replied firmly, "This boy can never belong in our world." David quietly turned to leave. But before walking away, he said one sentence. "I may be poor, but my intentions are not." Those words stayed in Emma's heart forever. After that day, Emma and David became closer. David took her to parks, described sunsets to her, and let her listen to the sound of ocean waves. He often told her, "The world is not only seen with eyes, it's also felt with the heart." Slowly, Emma began to change. She used to be lonely and cold, but now she smiled again. One day, David took her to a small orphanage where he secretly donated food and supplies. Emma was stunned. "You're poor yourself," she said. "Why do you help others?" David smiled gently. "Because people who understand pain are the ones who heal others." Tears rolled down Emma's face. For the first time in her life, she felt real love. But meanwhile, trouble was growing inside Emma's company. Her greedy uncle wanted control of the business empire. He spread false stories to the media, accusing David of being a scammer. Soon, the whole world turned against him. One afternoon, during a company board meeting, Emma's uncle shouted, "If you continue seeing that poor boy, you'll lose your company." The entire room became silent. Everyone expected Emma to choose wealth over love. But Emma calmly answered, "I can never leave the person who taught me how to live again." The room fell into shock. Then suddenly, the boardroom doors opened. David walked in carrying a file. "It's time everyone learns the truth," he said. Inside the file were secret documents proving that Emma's uncle had been stealing millions of dollars from the company for years. David had secretly collected all the evidence. Minutes later, the police arrived and arrested Emma's uncle. The media was shocked. The same poor boy everyone mocked turned out to be the most honest person of all. Weeks later, a famous surgeon offered Emma one final chance to restore her eyesight. The operation was dangerous. The success rate was only 20%. Emma was terrified. Before entering the operating room, she held David's hand tightly. "What if I never see again?" she whispered. David smiled warmly. "Then I'll spend my whole life describing the world to you." The surgery lasted for many long hours. Everyone waited nervously outside. Finally, the doctor came out with a smile. The surgery was successful. A few days later, the moment arrived to remove Emma's bandages. The room was completely silent. As the bandages slowly came off, Emma blinked her eyes. For the first time in 2 years, she could see light again. And the very first face she saw was David's. Simple clothes. Tired eyes. But a heart full of love and honesty. Emma burst into tears. "So, this is what you look like," she whispered emotionally. David laughed softly. "I hope I'm not too disappointing." Emma immediately hugged him tightly. Everyone in the room became emotional. A few months later, Emma held a huge press conference. Thousands of cameras pointed toward her. She looked at the crowd and said, "People believe this poor boy would ruin my life. But the truth is, he saved it." Then she held David's hand and continued, "Today, my wealth, my company, and my success mean nothing compared to this man." The entire hall became silent. Then suddenly, loud applause filled the room. Because that day, the world learned something important. True love does not care about money. It only cares about the heart.